this TV ad we actually have on guns right now. But
no, but you can take it. Go ahead.
In Mitch McConnell's home state, we're actually featuring a veteran and gun owner who's making the case for why Kentuckians support sensible gun laws. And that's much more powerful than a scary third-party narrator. Elevating the real voices of real people is absolutely how we need to achieve change, and the president's embrace of that last night was really powerful.
Now, speaking about your ad, the ad that you guys ran in Kentucky, which we were going to get to anyway, and what that ad did, and I want to talk less about the substance of the ad and what that ad models for the rest of the progressive organizations in the marketplace, for labor unions and for civil rights organizations and for all the organizations that do great work, immigration organizations, human rights organizations, who for sometimes they depend upon the third party narrator, or they depend upon their leader or their president or their secretary treasurer to tell the story, when it just doesn't have the same impact as a veteran who says that we shouldn't have guns, or the same impact as Gabby telling her story, the same impact of Hadia's mom cutting now with Hadia's mom saying we need to get rid of gun violence so another Hadia doesn't have to die. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if you happen to have the ad.
I was born and raised right here in Kentucky. I served my country as a marksman, and we were trained to use guns safely. It's unthinkable that guns meant for war could be used on civilians and children. As a gun owner and veteran, I support the plan to ban assault weapons and keep guns out of the wrong hands, because I know these guns. I know what they can do. Senator Mitch McConnell is funded by the gun industry, and he opposes common sense reforms. Senator McConnell, whose side are you on?
But people can check it out at gunownersforreform.com, and what you'll see is just this very authentic guy sitting actually with his grandson on his lap, talking very much from the heart. One thing we really value is authenticity. Sometimes groups take a step in the right direction and have real people in their ads, but you can just kind of tell it's scripted. And especially if you have one person say one part of a sentence and somebody else says another part of a sentence, it's like, all right, obviously they're all reading the same sentence. This isn't their real words. We just let this guy speak from the heart. And that's really the model going forward. And what's really interesting is that Mitch McConnell actually responded the day that we launched this ad last week. And his response was, oh, this is this out-of-state liberal group, but it got no legs because the person in the ad was just so obviously, a lifelong Kentuckian. So I think that's the biggest thing, elevating the real voices of real people. For groups like ours with a real grassroots membership, it's easier, right? Because we have, at this point, over 120,000 people who have signed this petition that's at gunownersforreform.com. 20,000 of them are gun owners, which means that whenever we want to pressure Mitch McConnell or whoever our next kind of legislative targets are, we can find their own constituents, figure out what their stories are, and tape them. So it kind of incentivizes, those who have grassroots memberships to be more involved in the ad-making process. One other small thing I would also point out is we made sure that we mentioned the money that Mitch McConnell took from the gun industry to get elected. I think it's around $198,000 that they spent working to elect Mitch McConnell, and pretty much used that to drive a wedge between the gun manufacturers and actual gun owners, and posing the question, whose side are you on? And I would actually encourage all groups who are making ads to take a few seconds at the end of the ad and just point out the money, because campaign finance reform is so pivotal to every issue, and it's never going to be anybody's first issue, but it should be everybody's second issue. We need to solve this problem, and if we're using our money on paid advertising anyway, we might as well use some of that money to achieve the secondary goal of connecting the dots for voters between the money and where people like Mitch McConnell are, as they're out of step on these issues.
I love that. I love that, Adam. I think you're completely right. We need to use, I'm going to steal that term from you, we need to use real voices to tell our story. And I think you're completely right. And I think you guys are sort of leading the way as always, and sort of changing how we as progressives tell our narratives. And this is something that I got to tell you, Republicans have figured out a long time ago. They figured this out months ago, years ago, I would say, and we're just sort of catching up to the curve, but it's effective because it relates to real everyday people.